Welcome to Following On India. I'm Neil Manthorp, and alongside me, Chetan Narula. Well, not alongside me, he's in India. Looking forward to Guwahati. Chetan, the first thing to say is that Australians and English supporters are very fond of saying at the moment that all eyes in the cricketing world are on the first day of the Ashes test of the Ashes. But that's not quite true, is it? There'll be several hundred million eyes on Guwahati on Saturday morning when the second Test match begins. I must say that the Ashes is the Ashes, and anticipation was at probably a 20-year high. But I'm pretty excited about Guwahati, and I know that I'm not alone with South Africa 1-0 up.
Well, yes. Hello, Neil, and hello to all our viewers once again. Well, first of all, I think there are two world events in cricket. When India play Pakistan in an ICC tournament, all eyes are on India and Pakistan. But let's give it to the Australian and English fans today. Day one of an Ashes series, yes, most of the cricket world's eyes are on Australia and England, and especially when it's an engrossing day's play. We'll talk more about that as I speak. An 18th wicket on day one has gone down. But look, yes, a lot of eyes will be on India versus South Africa. A lot of, let's say, side glances toward what India are doing, what kind of pitch is being prepared at the Barsapara Stadium. First test match in Guwahati, change in timings, change in breaks, change in play, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., then tea, and then followed by lunch. Usually we've seen that being followed in day-night test matches in different venues. So yeah, different setting. Not to mention, you're talking about a 20-year-old cycle. It was what 25 years ago. South Africa won the Test series in India. Here's an opportunity for them to do that once again. But big news, of course. Shubman Gill not playing the second Test. Kagiso Rabada not playing the second Test. So yeah, lots to talk about in the build up to this second Test match.
We shouldn't talk too much about the pitch, but
Mm.
because I mean, it's an organic piece of turf on which the game is played, and what happens happens. But we can't ignore it. Gautam Gambhir did say after the Eden Gardens Test match that that was the pitch they asked for.
Yeah.
There's been some doubt thrown cast on that now. I mean, you can only do so much to a pitch. I don't think you can going to be able to change the inherent nature of the Guwahati pitch.
Mm.
But some suggestion from within the Indian camp, I don't know whether it's dissent or not, but that Gautam Gambhir didn't actually ask for that sort of a pitch. And then you said it wasn't watered for 2 days before. I'm reading now that it wasn't watered for 3 or 4 days before that test match started. So more of the same?
Yeah. First of all, there is a green tinge on the pitch at Barsapara Stadium. So I don't think that it's not been watered. We'll have to wait for a few more reports on that. However, the basic differentiation is that this is going to be a red soil pitch and not a black soil pitch, as was the case in Eden Gardens. So I think you do need to tend to water the red soil pitch a little bit more than you do for the black soil because the red soil can break up even quicker. It's not going to give you as much variable bounce. Probably the bounce will be a lot more steady, but it can, if not watered, let's say, just like Kolkata, not watered 3 or 4 days out of the first test or the first morning. If it's not watered for the first, 3, 4 days before the first day tomorrow, that is tomorrow, that's Saturday, it's going to break up even quicker. So red soil, you have to water it a little bit more. But yes, I think they're not going to make a similar kind of pitch. Uh, but again, there's a lot of time to talk about what happens in Guwahati once the test match starts. Let's talk about what Sitanshu Kotak says. He's part of the Indian support staff. He's the assistant batting coach as well. Look, he's come out and said that Gautam Gambhir was taking the blame onto himself. He was making sure that the blame doesn't fall anywhere else than the team management, than the captain and the coach, that they wanted this pitch, when the reality is that they did not ask for the kind of pitch that was laid out at the Eden Gardens. Saurav Ganguly is on record saying, no, this is the exact kind of pitch that the Indian team management wanted. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, cross statements being put out. You can only wonder what kind of pitch was actually asked for, whether they were happy or unhappy. Because let's be honest, if the pitch wasn't watered 3 or 4 days out of the first morning, then you can't change the nature of the pitch. As you mentioned, the damage's already been done. Then Shubman Gill and Gautam Gambhir can only ask for one kind of pitch. You can't take a couple of steps back from there. You cannot redo it because there's not much time left. The damage has already been done. Maybe then they said, okay, now it's been dry for 2 days. Make sure that it turns a lot and then let it be a lottery test match, which it turned out to be, which India lost. So, as much as I've known Gautam Gambhir, as much as I've seen Gautam Gambhir, I will go out on a limb and say that he is not the kind of person who would lay the blame on someone else. So I was thinking this when he said that out aloud in the press conference, that we asked for this same kind of pitch when it has been understood that the Indian team management has been looking for a different kind of pitch. They want to do away with this spin-friendly lottery kind of test cricket. But again, like I said, you can choose who you want to believe. The bottom line is India lost that test match. Bottom line is Indian batters specifically do have, footwork lacking against spin or batting ability lacking against spin. Let's not disagree on that. So the fact of the matter is you need to win this test match and probably play on a better surface.
What about the composition of the Indian team? First of all, I should say that the South African team, they were cock-a-hoop. I mean, they were absolutely deliriously happy. And do you know what was the nice thing was that there wasn't too much talk about let's not get carried away, the job's not done yet, that kind of thing. There was a real, we've earned 2 days off and we're going to take them and we're going to enjoy them. And I spoke to Simon Harmer the day after the test match, and he said that they're in a lovely hotel with a swimming pool and wonderful restaurants, and they were going to enjoy it because often you don't get to enjoy 5-star facilities. They had a game of golf lined up on the 5th day. I have absolutely no doubt that they will be able to refocus, and that that they were, but as Harmer said to me, it is so important to enjoy victories, especially in India, because you have no idea when your next one's going to come along, if another one comes along. So a test match victory in India, unless you're a black cap, of course, in which case they're quite regular. But so I mean, the missing Rabada for the second test match is a huge blow. But look what Corbin Bosch did. We forget the fact Marco Jansen took 5 wickets and Simon Harmer took 8, and they grabbed the headlines, particularly Harmer. But Corbin Bosch took a couple of really good. That bouncer that got rid of Rishabh Pant, who will now captain the team, was outstanding. And I think we mentioned on following on India after the Test match that we don't talk about quarter centuries, but if we did, Corbin Bosch's 25 in the second innings was as good. Yeah, I mean, it's as good at 25 runs, as important at 25 runs as I've ever seen. So I'm not predicting too many changes for South Africa, if any. It'll have to be, an absolute raging turner. It'll have to be grassless for them to consider dropping Bosch and playing the third spinner in Senyaran Mutasamy. So I'm expecting South Africa most likely to be unchanged. Now, Shubman Gill being ruled out. If they look within the squad for a specialist replacement batter and they don't go the Nitish Kumar Reddy route as a replacement, then Devdutt Padikkal is another left-hander. So that would be 7 left-handers. Simon Harmer's just taken 8 against 6 left-handers. So, I mean, I read somewhere that they were even looking perhaps to go from without the squad, outside the squad.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't go Karan Nair again, would they?
No, Karun Nair has not been added to the squad. Nitish Reddy has been called back to the squad, so he could come into the side. Obviously, he's shown what he can do in Test cricket with the bat, and that's another all-round option. We know the coach likes his all-round options. So, but do you want a 4th all-rounder in the playing 11? That's my big question. You have Sundar already. You have Jadeja. You have Akshar Patel. Those 3 are left-handers as well. You do not want to field too many left-handers, of course. But as of now, as of today, Karun Nair has not been called up to the squad. The big question here is, do you read too much into it? If you have to get the job done, you just have to get the job done. If as a left-hander you have to bat against the off spinner, you have to bat against the off spinner. So Sai Sudarshan is there as well. He's been prepared. He's been batting while the South Africans were enjoying the swimming pool and the hospitality. The Indian team had a net session at Eden Gardens, and one of the net sessions they batted one leg without the pad. They batted against spin, one leg without pads, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to play with the bat as much as possible, trying to take the LBW out of the equation, trying to negate the spin, and also trying to get some sort of better footwork going so that your front foot comes forward, you smother the spin, you smother the bounce. So they have been putting the hard yards against spin in the net in the aftermath of that defeat. And Sai Sudarshan was part of that net practice session. David Padikkal was part of that session. Now Nitish Reddy has been called up to Guwahati. So the replacement will come from these three. I would want to see a proper batter in there. Let me be honest. Nitish Reddy, for all he's done with the bat, you have lost Shubman Gill. He's one of your prime batters, along with Rishabh Pant, along with KL Rahul and Yashasvi Jaiswal. So you've had a makeshift number three. You want to continue with that, sure, that's fine. Washington Sundar did well. But I would want to see a proper batter in place of Shubman Gill. I don't know who bats at number 4. I think things will change up a bit. But yes, I would want a proper batter in there. You cannot play another all-rounder there. But let me just also mention this. Lots been talked about the pitch. Of course, we've been part of this conversation as well. But 19 wickets have fallen in Perth. Another thing to remember here, and we touched upon this on the last day as well, let's not ignore that batting standards have fallen in Test cricket across the world, whether it be for basballing reasons, whether it be because there's just a lack of patience in batters and they just want to score quickly, or whether the ability against both pace and spin has just come down. Let's just be accepted, let's just accept that. Let's just be mindful of that when talking about pitches and everything. I'm not saying the Perth pitch was really bad or the Kolkata pitch was really bad or whatever. Pitches will be pitches. As you said, you can't really bring in the surfaces beyond a point. But let's also accept that batting standards have fallen all across the globe.
Yeah. Home ground advantage, there's nothing wrong with it, South Africa... So the South African players learned a valuable lesson in 2015 when those pitches, particularly the Nagpur one, were really comically underprepared. But they made a kind of vow to themselves. That generation of players has moved on now, but the likes of AB de Villiers and Hashim Amla said at the time, we just have to become better at playing. The only way that we're going to get good cricket pitches elsewhere in the world is becoming better at playing in conditions that we're not familiar with, and I mean, there was a sense of irony, wasn't there? That there were a lot of people around the cricket playing world that said that India had been hoisted by their own petard by preparing that pitch at Eden Gardens and then losing. And I mean, I don't think for a second that that Australia are in a similar boat, but if they had prepared that pitch with all that pace and bounce. And Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood had been able to complement Mitchell Starc, England might have been bowled out for 120. As it is, it looks like another backfire, doesn't it? It looks like another case of, I mean, England, they lined up like I think they wanted to 18 months ago with, an all-pace attack. 4 of whom are able to bowl at 90 miles an hour, close to over 145 kilometers an hour. And that is the best way. For a long time, the home ground advantage in the world was fatal, wasn't it? I mean, South Africa prepared green wickets and nobody could play on them. South Africa even struggled to bat on them, but they just scored. They didn't score a lot of runs, but they scored more than the opposition. I mean, if it is a trend that teams are becoming better at playing in conditions in which they have traditionally struggled, I think that's a great thing for Test cricket.
Which is also why I think Virat Kohli had said that in the WTC cycle, as it is right now, there should be more leverage for overseas wins. As it is the home advantage, when you're making different conditions, even in your home, for your home advantage, the opposition can also, come and win games, as we are seeing in Perth, as we saw with India, in Perth last year. India also were bowled out quite cheaply, and then Jasprit Bumrah with that magical spell, and Yashasvi Jaiswal 100, Virat Kohli's last Test 100. So from those, if you take those factors in view, and with what Virat Kohli said a few years back, that the current format of WTC, there should be more leverage on overseas wins. I think that would be a fantastic thing going ahead, because overseas wins count for a lot more. First of all, the conditions are getting more difficult. Like I said, the batting standards are falling. So yeah, overseas wins, they should count a little more. And I think it would make things even more interesting, because then the home sides would think, do we really need these sort of conditions that might help? For example, India would think, should we make spin friendly tracks? Because then the overseas spinners will enjoy them and they'll get more points because of an overseas win. So that might bring a little bit of parity in conditions, restore what perhaps Test cricket was previously like. As for the per Test match, we'll leave. talkSPORT has its own program on the Ashes for dwelling deeper into that. But I'll just say Mitchell Starc, absolute beauty, 7 wickets. It was a joy to watch him bowl, and he was targeting the stumps. If that's the way to bowl against Bazball, England will be in for a long series. But also, you mentioned about the 5 pacer attack. Can they play all 5 Test matches for England?
No.
That is going to be the big question mark. And I think how long their bowling attacks last for both sides is what's going to decide this Ashes series. But like I said, talkSPORT has its own army to decode the Ashes, and we'll leave it to them.
Yeah, well, on Channel 7, Michael Vaughan asked Mark Wood before the start of play, how many tests are you going to play? And he just laughed and said, well, it's not going to be 5. It's not going to be 5.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Just a final thought before we wrap up, and we'll talk again after the first day's play in Guwahati. But just, can you contextualize how important it could be the result if India lose or don't win? I mean, there's going to be a result, isn't there? It's not going to be a draw. If they were to lose, I mean, I've done the maths on South Africa's World Test Championship cycle, and if they win, I think they can then afford a massive summer at home next summer for South Africa, with Bangladesh coming for 2 tests. I've got South Africa down for 2-0 win there. But then 3 tests against England and Australia. I just think that South Africa will need to win 9 out of 14 to be sure of a place in the final of the World Test Championship final to defend their title. And if they win in Guwahati, I think they could afford to lose 2-1 to one of Australia or England. So it would give them huge amount of breathing space. And then they finished the campaign with 2 tests in Sri Lanka, which would be very difficult. What would it mean for India? Do you have the World Test Championship cycle imprinted in your brain? How costly might it be if they don't win in Guwahati?
Oh, it's going to be very costly. Very costly. India do not play a Test match until this time next year. I think in September, they'll be visiting Sri Lanka for 2 tests, and Sri Lanka will play one of those in Galle for sure. And turning tracks there, and if India cannot bat against spin at home, and Galle hasn't been a very happy hunting ground for India. So that's going to be tough. Then India go to New Zealand for 2 Test matches, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's 3. I think it's 2 Test matches. And New Zealand has not been a happy hunting ground for India either. I mean, those conditions, and early, India will go early there. I think they'll go in October, November. It's not the fag end of the series. Not the fag end of the season, early in the season. And the pitches are going to be very pacey, movement, etc. Again, we have a great bowling attack, but again, New Zealand has not been a very happy hunting ground for India. Even under Virat Kohli, India struggled over there. I think the last time we had a great result, Gautam Gambhir did well in Napier, but we don't play in Napier anymore, do we? So no. New Zealand is going to be tough. But then Australia are coming for 5 Test matches to India. That's in early 27, the first quarter of 27. And that's to end this WTC cycle for India. And you again go back to those pitches, or these lottery pitches, for those 5 Test matches, because India will be in a quandary to perhaps win that series with a huge margin to be able to make the WTC final. So, whether you win or lose, I think winning obviously will help. winning this test match will help. I'll also bring another factor in there. But if you lose this, then I think the WTC would be would be a bridge too far for India. It's early doors, but yeah, with New Zealand and Australia at home, 5 test matches with lottery pitches, Todd Murphy, Nathan Lyon, Matthew Kuhneman, maybe another spinner who comes along. You never know. Obviously, they will win one test match. Didn't they win, in Indore? They did. So uh, these lottery test wickets, you can't really predict anything. So yeah, it's going to be tough. But the bigger question is, when was the last time India lost two consecutive home series or home series in two consecutive seasons? You lost 3-0 to New Zealand. You won against West Indies. West Indies are not one of the top ranked test sides. Now you lose to South Africa, the World Test Championships at home. Gautam Gambhir's test record as coach is not looking very good. Lost at home to New Zealand, lost in Australia, draw in England, which was good, but you haven't built on that. Lose to South Africa at home. Is he on shaky turf? Will India look for a new coach, a new test coach? Because Gautam Gambhir has done well in ODIs and T20s. All of that is good. The T20 World Cup is coming. He's building a good side. We won the Champions Trophy, white ball, all good. What happens to Gautam Gambhir, the test coach? That is a very, very interesting question if India loses this test series.
Yeah, he's bought himself some time with his white ball record, though, hasn't he? But his
Yep.
test record is not good at all. Well, that's it for now. I can't believe the toss is at 8:30 and play starts at 9 a.m. It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it's dark by
It is.
4:30 in the afternoon. I doubt we'll get 90 overs in.
No, we will not get 90 overs in. 4 is the stipulated end of play, and then 4:30 is
Hmm.
extension. 4 p.m. It's almost like
Dark.
it was almost in Kolkata. You will not get full overs, but I don't think we'll need full overs on all 5 days, do we?
Right, Chetan Narula, and from me, Neil Manthorp. This has been Following on India, and we'll be back after each day of the second test.